Hi everybody, it's Jenny from the Missouri Star Quilt Company, and I've got a great project for you today. Let's take a look at this little quilt right back here, little wall hanging if you will, that's on my design board here. These are all old antique embroidered blocks that I have picked up at an antique store or a yard sale or someplace like that. I just can't bear to leave them. They have to come home with me. When they get to my house, I put them in a big chest that I have that's marked secret projects because I'm going to do something with them someday. Well, today's the day. I just love these little embroidered blocks, but one of the things to remember with these is we don't know much about them. So to make this project, you're going to need a little bit of batting. You're going to need your embroider blocks, and I've used 10-inch squares, and this is everything but the kitchen sink for RJR, and it's just a great 30s line. They're just all mixed up, different little prints, and I thought it would go really well with the type of blocks that I'm using on this. So what we're going to do on this is we're going to take a look at this embroidery work. The little one that I'm doing right here is all little animals. They're just adorable, but there's something right here that you need to notice. And actually, this is a good lesson. If you're an embroiderer, make sure you leave extra fabric on your edges because all of these blocks are just embroidered right to the edge. And I did not trim them or anything. They came this way. They're actually all just a little bit different sizes, so I had to work with them very carefully. And that's why I cut my outer block one size to make sure that all the blocks came out the same. So here's how we're going to do this. We're going to take whatever size block you are, and I'm going to cut a 1/2 inch bigger piece of batting to put underneath. I then center it on my background square, and I just kind of eyeball it. I'm not really worried about it because what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch this down on the sewing machine, and then I'm going to cut my border about 1 inch all the way around. So let's go over to the sewing machine and stitch this down. Now I'm going to stitch right close on the edge. No 1/4 inch for this because I want to save as much of the block as I can. So I'm just right on that edge. You can zigzag. I'm just using a straight stitch right now. I think my other ones have zigzags on them. But we started straight here, so we're just going to go with straight. Make sure it stays lined up. So this is a great way, this quilt is a go method that I'm going to show you today, is a great way. You could use any block you have and put your quilt together like this. Just a real easy way to get your whole quilt done and finished on your home machine. All right, so we're going to take our block here. We've stitched it down on the outside. And I know that I want my block to end up 7.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to center this up on here, and I'm going to lay my ruler, and I'm going to come out about 1 inch on all 4 sides. And you'll notice that wasn't completely straight, but it's because I'm going along the stitch line to make my edge. And I'm actually going to lay one of these on here to make sure I have a good enough amount. I do. Let's see here. Yep, it's just going to be just about 1 inch. All right, so I'm following my stitch line, and I'm coming out 1 inch right here. Now, some of these blocks, again, it's better actually to check each one than to get it too short. I got one block too small, and he's probably going to have to be a pot holder because I'm never going to get him the right size again. All right, so this one over here, it's a little bit wider. And then this right here. And again, I'm just going to lay this on top to make sure I get the same little edge here. Right. 1 inch out. What I'm looking for is about 1 inch border on these right here. Now I'm going to put this on top of here and make sure these are the same. Looks like this one is just a hair bigger, so I'm going to trim that down so it matches. Let's see what we got here. All right, it looks like about just a teeny bit off each side. And it's better if they're the same size, so we're going to go ahead and just trim a teeny bit off this side and that side. And it should be perfect. Now let's check it again. And it's perfect. All right, so now what you do, once you get all your blocks done like that, what we're going to do is we're going to pin them together. And I've got these pinned right here, but I'm going to take this out and show you how I did this. So you're going to have all your embroidered blocks. Aren't they so cute? We're going to have all your embroidered blocks in a little stack. And I'm going to kind of mix up my colors. It's pretty easy to do with a pack like this because pretty much every piece is a different pattern, different color. So then what I'm going to do, you'll notice that I laid this on here so that the right side of the fabric is to the outside. So I laid this on the wrong side of my fabric. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put these two together like this, and I'm going to check to make sure that my blocks are oriented the right direction because you don't want to have your kitty laying sideways. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line these up, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to stitch right along my sew line that I sewed down. So just about an inch in, and sew them together. And I should have looked onto the other side to make sure I wasn't sewing into that block. That would have been a really smart thing to do, but we're going to see how I did right here. Oh, we did good. Whew, I'm glad that worked out. All right, so now we have these two pieces like this, and this is how the Quilt As You Go is going to work. We're going to press these down, open like this. Now, when you have embroidery that comes right out to the edge, you want to take as small a seam as you can. And so what I did with this was I folded this under as far as it could go, like this, far as it in, and then laid it over the top like that. I'm going to lose most of this little flower here, which I'm sad about, but I want a ½ inch. I feel like it's just about the smallest I can go. I suppose we could have bordered these squares with the same color muslin and made them a little bigger. But the seam would have shown, and so I just opted to do it this way and lose just a little bit of that. And so I'm folding this under as far as it can go. It gives me just probably a little less than a ½ inch on here, and I'm going to stitch this, top stitch this straight down the top. So let's come over here to the sewing machine, and this you just want to go right along the edge. So not that ½ inch, but right along that edge. And top stitch it down, make sure it stays under, fold it under really nicely. Like this, and I'm just going to come across here and sew down the other side. So you're going to do this to each block. You're just going to put them together. Like this next one will go right here. We put them right sides together. And we're going to sew right across here, and we're going to open it up, press it out, and fold it under just like we did this. You're going to do that to your whole row. Now my row, I have 4 up here, and that was determined by the number of blocks I had. I knew I had to have a few blocks to show you, and I only had 3 extra. I didn't have enough for a whole nother row, so I just decided to make it a little 4x4 wall hanging. And again, you know, I mean, like this one is going to be a little bigger because I have more squares here, but it depends on how many squares you have, how big your project is going to be. So now when you have all your rows together like this, and you're ready to add the next row to it, you do exactly the same thing, but it's going to be a long row. So you're going to lay these up here like this. You know, this is all going to be folded under and sewn under. I'll put a little pin in here so it looks like I'm all done. Like this. And then when you're ready to sew your rows together, you're just going to do the same thing. You're going to pull them together like this, wrong sides together. You're going to sew your seam, and then this whole row you will then fold over and fold over and fold down. You do the same edge on your outside. So let's look at this right here. See, I just folded it over and sewed it down. So fold it in once and over again, and it just finishes off that whole outside edge there. And your whole quilt is done, and you did it right on your own sewing machine. So I love this method. I love how easy it went together, and I love that I finally did something with my embroidered blocks. And we hope you enjoyed this tutorial on the Any Block Quilt As You Go method by the Missouri Star Quilt Company.